It is the final Friday of the Major League Baseball regular season, and there is still so much to be decided, Nika. And so we're going to be here talking about all of it. We have two divisions in the American League that are undecided. The wild card is undecided in both leagues right now, including the order of operations. And we do have our first postseason matchup in the books. We just have no idea where it's going to be happening yet.
Crazy.
Yes. So we're going to get into all of it. But if this is your first time here, please do us a solid and like, subscribe, and ring that bell for our mascot, Frexy. She does love the attention, folks. She even perks up as I say her name. Aw. All right. Well, let's get started here, Nika, because we have a lot to get through and not a lot of time to do it.
Sure.
The American League, the Mariners have clinched the AL West for the first time since 2001. They had a fun celebration, 24 years in the making.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know that was that long.
It has been a while. It's been a dry spell,
kidding.
longer than the Padres even in the National League, which is 2006 if you're keeping track.
Okay.
So one slump is over. We have to work on that other one. More on that in a minute. But the Mariners clinched the AL West, and they're the only team that has clinched their division right now. That's because the Yankees and Blue Jays are currently tied in the standings with 3 games remaining. The Blue Jays do hold the tiebreaker. The Mariners clinch, but Cleveland and Detroit are tied as well today. So we have 2 divisions that are having ties leading into the final weekend of the season. I don't know if the baseball gods could have scripted it up any better for the Major League Baseball executives.
No kidding.
And the fact that the Yankees are involved in those games is just going to bolster the profile.
Absolutely.
And not to take anything away from the Blue Jays or Cleveland or Detroit.
No. It's a East Coast media stuff, basically.
Definitely.
helps.
Definitely. So the Blue Jays do hold the tiebreaker over the Yankees, by the way, and they will be hosting the Tampa Bay Rays, while the Yankees will be hosting the Orange Birds, the Baltimore Orioles. In the AL Central, the Guardians hold the tiebreaker over Detroit. Detroit is playing at Boston. Oh, my goodness. And Texas is playing at Cleveland. So not quite as, I guess, dramatic is the word I'm looking for there.
Sure, but it still matters.
Still going to be stressful, no matter where in the country you are. All right. So as far as the top spot in the American League goes, that is actually still in play for the Mariners. Now, it's most likely that they're going to finish second here. But if the Yankees and Blue Jays go 1-2 or worse, or 0-3, I guess those are the only 2 options to be worse, the Mariners will have a chance to take the top spot in the American League and host the American League Championship Series should they get that far. But they will have to sweep the Dodgers in Seattle this weekend in order for that to happen.
Let's go Mariners.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It would be fun.
It just hasn't happened. I mean, you can see how long it's been since they won the damn division, so you can only do the math and see. I don't know if they've ever been the top seed in the American League, to be honest.
It's great for Mariners.
It's really cool,
yeah.
and we're so happy for them because we've been following them since April when they won. What was it, like 9 straight series?
Yeah,
that
they went
won?
on their little run.
They did. That run got them this opportunity because, like a lot of teams, they kind of went stagnant in the middle of the season.
Of course, it's an up and down season. It's lots and lots of games.
It is.
So.
It is. All right. So I think that gets us caught up on the American League divisions. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the American League Central is what we really should be watching because today the standings for the wild card in the American League stack up like this. The Yankees are on top 5, while Boston is only up 1 game now in the middle slot, and Detroit is even, holding on to the bottom slot.
Barely holding on.
Barely. They did finally win a game after losing 8 in a row in Cleveland. So give them props for rising up and stopping that losing streak. And preventing the Guardians from basically going up 2 games here with 3 remaining, which would have been basically insurmountable. Nevertheless, we also have the Astros kind of remaining in the picture, though their pathway to get into the postseason is very, difficult, as you're going to see here as we explain it. So what does this all mean? Well, the Blue Jays and Yankees can only finish in either first place in the American League East or in the top wild card spot. So first place in the American League East or fourth place, I guess, with the top wild card spot.
Okay.
So they can also finish in the top spot in the American League, which is looking likely because they both hold the tiebreaker over Seattle. We just talked about that. So I feel like they're either going to be in first or in fourth, the Blue Jays or the Yankees, with an outside chance of them somehow maybe getting to the second seed. But
it's a slim chance.
That's it. So a lot on the line, though, for the Blue Jays and the Yankees there, because you get a bye or you don't. And I feel like, especially for the Yankees, you know, we've seen that they've had a lot of injuries this year. Aaron Judge's shoulder, Giancarlo Stanton's elbows come to mind. And they just have had some bang-ups along the way here. And any chance for them to get healthier probably helps them out.
And it's a week of recovery for them.
And then you figure they have home field, even against Seattle, should it come to that. So, you know,
lots
on the line for the Yankees. The Blue Jays do hold that tiebreaker, though, so they have to finish a game better than the Blue Jays. Otherwise, they will not be they will be in the wild card.
They'll be in the number one spot in the wild card.
Yeah, you definitely got to give the edge to the Blue Jays right now. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the rest of the wild card then. And this is where it's going to get a little bit crazy, folks, so try to stay with me. The Astros are playing at the Los Angeles Angels this weekend in Anaheim, and the Tigers, meanwhile, are playing at the Red Sox.
Okay.
So the bottom two teams are playing each other right now. And the Red Sox, as we said, have a 1-game lead over Detroit for the, you know, and that's a big deal because if you finish in the bottom spot, then you're potentially going to Yankee Stadium or Toronto in round one. Both crowds are going to be crazy to play in front of. I wouldn't want that if I'm the Red Sox. But at the same time, you're going to be in a road series, whether you finish 5th or 6th anyways.
Doesn't matter.
And they cannot catch the Yankees or the Blue Jays.
So they're never going to get a home field advantage, basically. The Red
Correct.
Sox. Okay.
But you're talking about going to play at Cleveland or at Detroit, depending on who wins the AL Central, if you finish 5th or 6th. And a lot of both of those teams are involved in that, by the way, in this conversation. So this is how I decided to do it. We're going to assume, to start with, that Cleveland goes 2-1 or better this weekend against Texas, because by doing so, it will ensure that they lock up that top spot, even if the only way that the Tigers could finish ahead of them is to sweep at Boston. So, but we're going to assume for starters that that Cleveland goes 2-1 and that the Tigers only go 2-1.
Okay.
If the Astros then sweep the Angels, this would create a 3-way tie scenario where the Red Sox, the Astros, and the Tigers all are tied for the
third
5th,
spot.
6th wild card spot. And in this scenario, Boston holds the tiebreaker over Houston. Detroit holds the tiebreaker over Boston. And Detroit also holds the tiebreaker over Houston.
So Houston basically has the slimmest chance of making the playoffs.
Houston has the roughest pathway because they win the tiebreaker versus nobody, and they lose it to Cleveland, Boston, and Detroit. They have no tiebreaker advantages here. So their only pathway is via a sweep, and even in that case, they're going to need help from other teams because, as we just explained, you know, if the Tigers go 2-1 and the Red Sox go 1-2, then by contrast, they still don't get in.
Yeah.
They still don't get in. So
tough. That's a tough road.
How does Houston get in? Well, there is a scenario where that happens. There's a couple scenarios where that happened, but let's go through these scenarios one by one. If the Tigers go 1-2, the Red Sox will finish in the 5th spot. And this is also, again, assuming Cleveland goes 2-1 or better.
Okay.
So if Cleveland goes 2-1 or better and the Tigers go 2-1 and the Astros sweep, Boston's in, Detroit is in, Houston's out. If the Tigers go 1-2, the Red Sox get the 5th spot and the Astros could get in with a sweep
Okay.
because of the standings right now.
I got you. Okay.
That would give the Tigers only 87 wins, and if the Astros sweep, they will have 88 wins. So the Astros have to sweep, and they have to hope for luck from the Tigers.
Okay.
The Tigers, if they go 0-3, the Red Sox stay in the 5th spot, and the Astros only need to go 2-1 then to get into the playoffs. So there is a scenario where they don't sweep, where they can still get in.
But the other team has to lose 2 games. Tigers.
The Tigers would also have to lose by my count. If the Tigers somehow sweep at Boston, then the Red Sox would be at 87 wins, and the Astros, if they sweep, would be at 88. So they can sweep and get in ahead of the Red Sox, and the Red Sox would be out in that scenario. Pretty crazy, huh, Nika?
That's a very hard path for the Astros.
It is difficult, right?
Yes.
Now, this next scenario that I'm going to talk about seems really unlikely, but nevertheless, we said we were touching all stones here. So the Guardians can also fall into the wild card. How do they do that? Well, if they finish 2-1 and the Tigers finish 3-0, they're going to be in the wild card because the Tigers will finish ahead of them in the AL Central, therefore get the 3rd spot. Mm-hmm. If the Guardians only finish 1-2 this weekend against Texas, then Detroit needs to only finish 2-1 against Boston to win the AL Central, and therefore the Guardians would then also fall into the wild card, and doing so with a worse record because the Tigers would have finished 1-2, but Boston also would have finished 1-2, so Boston would have finished ahead of them, and then you also get into a situation where if the Astros finish 3-0 and you only win one more game, then you're out. So if you also finish 0-3, then the Tigers only need to finish 1-2 at Boston to win the division, and you put yourself at a high risk of, getting the Astros in there because the Astros will then only need to win one game, and they're going to finish ahead of you. So I think or they will still have to go 2-1. I apologize. So here's how it all shakes out, Nika. If the Guardians finish 2-1 and the Tigers sweep, putting the Guardians back into the wild card, then Cleveland will finish 5th and Boston or Houston will finish 6th. Because as we just outlined, if the Guardians finish 2-1, then that means the Tigers would have to finish 3-0 to finish ahead of them. Therefore, the Red Sox will go 0-3. And so the Red Sox with 85 wins, 87 wins, if Houston sweeps, they can finish ahead of Boston. So that scenario is out there. Now, if the Guardians finish 1-2, the Tigers have to finish 2-1 or better to get into the playoffs, and therefore Boston would be the 5th seed. Okay. Because the Tigers would be the champs, and Cleveland or Houston would be the 6th seed, not Boston or Houston. Cleveland or Houston. Okay. And the Guardians, that's if they finish 1-2, and that would put them at 87 wins. The Astros could then sweep and be with 88 wins and finish ahead of them, but not tied. If they're tied, Cleveland owns the tiebreaker over Houston. Houston owns no tiebreakers.
Right.
So if the Guardians finish 0-3, the Tigers only need to finish 1-2 to win the AL Central. And Boston would then, of course, be the 5th seed because they will have won 2 games and locked it up. And Cleveland or Houston would then be the 6th seed. Houston would only need to win 2 games.
You need a big graphic.
I got one.
No, I'm just saying to visualize all this stuff because there's so many scenarios.
Yes, and MLB.com, the author, the AI author, thank you for providing these cheat sheets here, showing us all these possible scenarios because it was getting confusing to even put this whole production together today.
I know.
But I wanted to do it because it is fun. It is fun to think about and go through all these scenarios. But like the biggest takeaway from the American League, I think, is that Houston has a really, really tough uphill battle. And if you look at even this tweet that's posted today, it says the Tiger, it basically says the Tigers, Red Sox, and Guardians can all clinch a playoff berth today. And I think that's because if the Astros lose,
Yes.
they're all in.
They are. Right, exactly. So today is the must win for the Astros if they want to continue their path.
I'm still a little like confused about that because by my math, what I'm looking at, if the Tigers go 0-3 and the Astros go 2-1, they would still finish with more wins than the Tigers. So I'm still confused about that a little bit. I don't think that's right. But it says Red Sox, Guardians, and Tigers can clinch a postseason berth tonight. So I guess if the Guardians win and the Tigers win, that will give them 87 wins. And I guess if the Astros lose, that will give them 87 wins maximum.
And they don't own the tiebreakers, therefore they are not.
And the Red Sox would have 87 wins
Yeah.
max. So that does make sense now. So that's how it happens. The Tigers, Guardians would have to win their games tonight. And the Astros would also then have to lose, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's the scenario. That's how they can all three of those teams can clinch. Glad we cleared that up, Nika. Now we can move on to the National League where it's so much less convoluted, right?
No, baby.
Right?
Maybe.
All right. Well, one thing that did get resolved yesterday is the Dodgers did clinch the NL West division title for the fourth time in a row. This was a little bit of a bittersweet moment for me personally, as I had picked the Padres to win the division earlier this year and was kind of like holding out to hope. And I got to be honest, I feel like the Dodgers gave the Padres every opportunity to win this division from them, and they unfortunately did not take it. It was theirs for the taking.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it, and they will now probably be relegated to a road playoff series, though more on that in a second. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Brewers, their magic number is 1 to clinch NL home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs from the Phillies, from everybody.
So whoever wants to
that's
win.
one Phillies loss or one Brewers win, and it's over.
So everybody has to go through the Brewers, through Milwaukee, basically.
But most likely, that's going to be the most likely scenario. The magic number, like I said, is 1. So there's still an outside chance the Phillies can get it, but it's not likely. What cannot happen is the Dodgers cannot crack into the top 2.
So the Dodgers are delegated to the wild card.
Much like the American League Central division winner will be.
Okay.
Yes. The NL West will go to the wild card round, and they do not know who they are facing yet. The final wild card spot is in a big dogfight right now between the Mets, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks, with the Mets right now holding a 1-game advantage over the Cincinnati Reds and a 2-game advantage over those snakes, the Diamondbacks.
They are slithering their way in, huh?
They are. And the as far as I can tell mathematically, the second tiebreakers are not decided because we do have some ties here with the season series. But nevertheless, let's get into it all. Arizona will finish at San Diego this weekend, as we've been discussing throughout these weeks. Cincinnati is finishing at Milwaukee, and the New York Mets are finishing at Miami. And don't overlook those mighty Marlins these days because they are not the same team they used to be, as we've been talking about here. All right, so what does this all mean? Well, basically, if the Mets finish 3-0, they're in. They hold their own fate in their own hands right now. If the Mets finish 2-1, Arizona is still eliminated. And the Reds are in only if they finish 3-0 or better because they are a game behind. So they have to make up that game in order to finish tied with the Mets and therefore win the tiebreaker.
So they will have to sweep the Brewers.
Yes, because Cincinnati owns the tiebreaker over the Mets. They also own the tiebreaker over Arizona.
Okay.
Arizona only owns a tiebreaker against the Mets. So, again, that's if the Mets finish 2-1, Arizona's eliminated because they're 2 games back, and they won't be able to make up more than 2 games if the Mets win 2 games.
Well, there's only 3 games left.
Just making sure that that's clear for everybody. So by doing so, that means Arizona can only get in if they finish 3-0, because they can only get in if the Mets finish 1-2 or less, or 0-3.
Okay.
So if they finish 1-2 or 0-3, then I guess Arizona can get in, but they also have to have the Reds then finish like 0-3 as well, because if the Reds finish 1-2, they hold the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks still would not be in, even if they sweep.
They're in a
and
similar,
the Reds win a game.
Yeah,
you know?
Arizona is in a similar situation as the Astros.
They need help.
They need help from other teams in order to get in. Yes,
And the Reds do have a tough matchup with Milwaukee, but
Absolutely.
they're also going to be resting and getting their rotation ready for the playoffs. They're probably not going to toss Misharovsky, for example.
the Brewers.
Exactly. Yeah. So Cincinnati does have a chance to win one of these games. I am confident in that.
Absolutely,
and
they
that
do.
one win and one Mets win, I mean, will basically end their season, although they do need 2 Mets wins. So anyways, it's a long shot for Arizona to get in. I hope that makes sense. But they can only get in if they finish 3-0 and the Mets finish 1-2. And even if the Reds would have to finish 0-3 in that situation. So it's a tough shot. It's a tough one. And I feel for the Arizona Diamondbacks to get this close 2 years in a row. And it looks like they're going to be the 7th team, right? Now, if all 3 teams finish tied, the Reds are in. I don't know if we said that or not, but in case we didn't, there you go. All right. Now, there is one other order of business that needs to be resolved in the National League, and that is where the Padres and Cubs are going to play. That's right. The Padres and Cubs matchup is set. They are going to meet in the wild card round. Nothing will change that. The only thing we don't know is where it's going to happen. Is it going to happen at Wrigley Field, or is it going to happen at Petco Park? That's because the Cubs right now have lost 6 of 7 games heading into this final weekend. They won 1 out of 3 against the Mets after getting swept 4 games in a row by the Reds.
Yes.
And giving the Reds this opportunity to make the postseason. Now the Padres are within striking distance. They haven't been like lighting the world on fire, but they're 6-4 over their last 10, while the Cubs are 4-6. So they've made up a couple games, and now they're only 2 games back of the Cubs with 3 games left. And this is just so Cubs, you know, like if you're a Cubs fan, like I am growing up in Chicago, and this is like PTSD for a Cubs fan. Like this is like, you used to have these conversations and be like, oh, typical Cubs, you know, like doing everything they can to make life hard on themselves when they seemingly had it locked up. Look, I think it's a long shot for the Cubs to lose home field advantage here. Their magic number's 2, by the way. So that's any combination of Cubs wins and Padres losses.
Okay.
So the Cubs hold their own destiny in their own hands right now. And the Padres are playing the Diamondbacks, who are mathematically alive, but they need a lot of help, like we just said. And if anything changes for the Diamondbacks, like they lose tonight to the Padres, they're out.
Right.
And that means they're going to be dejected over the weekend. So if the Cubs somehow lose today, Friday, which they're about to start playing in 30 minutes from this recording, and the Padres then somehow beat the Diamondbacks tonight, I think the pressure's on. I think it's on. The Cubs would have to win out the last 2 games, and the Padres would have to win out the last 2 games to, you know, for the Cubs. I think the Padres could run the table if the Diamondbacks lose today, because they'll be dejected. I feel like it's a long shot for the Padres to catch the Cubs, but as a Padres fan first these days, I do hope that the Padres could somehow catch the Cubs. I hope the Cubs pull a classic Cubs. But in case they don't, the Padres will then have to go to Wrigley Field, and I feel like that gives the Cubs the advantage in this series. But we're not going to really start talking about the series until Monday. I'm going to let the dust settle and find out what all the matchups are. But there's definitely some interesting things to keep a lookout for with both the Cubs and Padres this weekend, regardless of where they finish and where they wind up playing. Kyle Tucker is coming back, and he's DHing today. Do we see the old Kyle Tucker return, or do we see someone who is struggling? He has a calf injury. He was not with the team when they celebrated. Also, Cade Horton is getting a second opinion today from a doctor about his back injury that caused him to leave the game the other day. He's playing catch in front of the doctor. He's not even throwing off a mound or throwing batting practice or a simulated nothing, bullpen, nothing. It's just catch. This tells me that that's not good for him. And he's the Cubs' best pitcher, like heading down the stretch by far. Meanwhile, if you're the Padres, Ramon Laureano, broken index finger, out for the first round of the playoffs at least. Huge blow. Best right-handed bat against left-handed pitching. Imanaga and Matthew Boyd come to mind. So huge blow for the Padres. And, oh, by the way, Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't play all week since the White Sox games because he's been, quote-unquote, sick, out with the
sniffles.
flu. And they say he's going to be back today, but we'll see what he looks like if he's looking bleamish, squeamish.
Sure.
I don't know. So hopefully he's healthy because the Padres will certainly need a 100% Fernando Tatis Jr. without Ramon Laureano in the lineup.
Absolutely. And the Padres pitching hasn't been lighting the world on fire either.
It hasn't, but I mean, I think if you're a Padres fan versus a Cubs fan right now, you're feeling a lot more confident with having...
What you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have Nick Pivetta, Michael King, and Yu Darvish in 3 games against the Cubs versus, like, the Cubs may not have Cade Horton. Shota Imanaga got lit up last night, and Matthew Boyd has not been great down the stretch like he was in June, July, and August. He has fallen off in September, and you just wonder if the innings are adding up on these guys that haven't thrown a lot of deep innings, you know, and the Padres have unfinished business from last year.
They do.
So I feel like the Cubs just feel like they're so content with making the playoffs, and that's it.
That was the impression I got yesterday when they were talking to the media.
Yeah.
We good? We're good where we are. We accomplished our goal for this season.
Yeah, they were like, oh, it's been 7 years since we made the playoffs. Yay. And like,
there was no
by
seconds.
contrast, it's like the Padres feel like they got unfinished business from last year because they felt like they were the better team. And I think they feel like they're the better team this year on paper. And
they do feel like they are a better team because the media says so. And their own coach said so.
Yeah, well.
And the Sports Illustrated said so.
Sports Illustrated said so. Exactly. What was Becky Lynch in the house?
Yep.
Hey, before we get out of here, one final note, okay?
Sure.
It is the end of an era tonight in San Diego, Nika. The City Connect uniforms, the mint green San Diego Padres uniforms, the Miami Vice specials, as I like to call them, the Friday nights.
Green, they got some pink in there.
Mint green and fuchsia. Is that a fuchsia?
Fuchsia, yellow, bright color ones.
The helmets are mint green. Therefore they take over the dominant color for me.
Okay.
And therefore but these are the last time that the Padres are apparently wearing these City Connect uniforms, and for now. I have a sneaking suspicion, though, that they will make an appearance again someday in the future.
They can't hold on to them, right? If they decide to keep them and just get rid of some other ones.
Well, who knows? They might have a throwback day or something like that in the future. I don't know. Who knows? I think they've been a mixed bag as terms of like whether you either love them or you hate them. I'm on the enjoyment side of things with these uniforms. I've thought like the player personalities of the team kind of match the uniforms. So it's been fun. It's been a good ride. But having said that, I'm anxiously excited to see what the Padres put out next year for their new City Connects. I would love to see the swinging friar get involved as like a Flintstone cartoon kind of thing. Maybe we can bring like a retro Padres look back from the past, but with one of their different color schemes, like orange and navy, something like that. That might be fun to play with. So count me in, and let's see what they come up with over there. But yeah, an end of an era tonight. I've enjoyed the Padres City Connect uniforms, and they are definitely one of the most boldest choices out there.
They were the most colorful ones versus a lot of other teams, for sure.
Absolutely. I remember when they debuted and like they were like a shock.
We both liked them, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think they had a grade A from the MLB community as well because they were bright.
Yes, indeed. So nevertheless, excited to see what they come up with next. And that's that. So we'll see how it goes for the Padres, for the Cubs this weekend. We'll see where those wild card games wind up getting played. All right, Nico, that's everything on my table. What about you? Do you have anything left to discuss before we get out of here?
Do you think somehow Astros will get in?
No.
Me neither.
I think the Astros are out. So the AL is going to be Cleveland, Detroit, and Boston. I just don't really know where they're going to finish yet.
The order of things? Okay.
Yes. Wait and see. I feel like Cleveland's going to win the Central because they hold that tiebreaker, and I feel like Boston is still the tougher place to play, and Boston has something to play for tonight. If they win tonight, I think that they hold the tiebreaker. Do they? Let me check my notes. Let's see here. Boston holds the tiebreaker. Oh, Detroit holds it over Boston, so that won't be resolved yet. They need to win 2 games in order to clinch 5th place, and then they'll play at the Yankees in round 1. Enjoy. Or Toronto.
Enjoy that one too.
Yeah.
All right.
No easy pathways here if you're at the 5th or 6th AL wildcard spot. So I'm going to take, in the NL, I'm going to take the Reds.
The Reds going to make it?
Yeah, I feel like it's easy to look at the Mets playing at Miami and say the Mets are going to win, but I don't think so. I looked, and Miami is throwing Yuri Perez, Sandy Alcantara, and Edward Perez? Edward Cabrera. That's the name I was looking for. Yep, so that's who will be tossing for the Marlins this weekend, and I think they take 2 out of 3 from the Mets.
So you think Mets will not get in?
The Mets are playing like they have a boatload of pressure on their shoulders. And again, they're 1 game over the Reds. So if they go 1-2, the Reds have to go 2-1. If they go 0-3, which is possible against these pitchers, and because the Marlins are hitting and they have nothing to play for but pride, they got so close, in the standings. All right. Well, enjoy the final weekend of the season, folks, and let us know who you're taking in all these remaining races. We're going to be back here on Monday to see where the dust settles on all of these scenarios and break down the wild card round matchups as we begin the Major League Baseball playoffs.